As far as the world of pop punk and alternative music is concerned, Grayscale is one of the most promising bands I've seen/heard in years. They have the complete package, if I've ever seen one. I attribute much of their success to the 3 M's, as they absolutely excel in these 3 categories, leaving other bands in the dust. And those 3 categories are as follows: music, merchandise, and marketing. And each one of those categories work in conjunction with one another, strengthening Grayscale as a unit. Think of it like a pizza. You need the crust, the sauce, and the cheese to make a pizza. If you're missing an ingredient, you'll have something that's kind of like a pizza. Like if you had cheese and bread, that would be good. If you had sauce and bread, that might be good, but it wouldn't be a pizza. But when you get all 3 ingredients together, the sauce, cheese, and crust, that's when you create a great pizza. When you have the perfect mix of music, merchandise, and marketing that's all done extremely well, you create a great band that has so much potential in terms of longevity as well as what they'll be able to accomplish in their career. Everyone in Grayscale and that's on the Grayscale team absolutely needs to pat themselves on the back, as they are killing it right now, and it seems like the momentum is really just getting started. I have a few things and ideas that I wish to discuss in this video, so go ahead and crack open that can of beans and let's get into it. First and foremost, we got to talk about the age-old question: is Grayscale a brand or a band? Talk about their music and why I think it's better than most bands in their genre, and finally, their brilliant marketing. I'm also going to give you my thoughts on their 2 most recent singles, Painkiller Weather and In Violet, since a few mates have asked for my thoughts on those. So, is Grayscale a brand or a band? If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you're a fan of Grayscale, and I don't have to explain to you that this is an inquiry often said in jest and not so much a yes or no question that's demanding of a super serious answer. And the answer wouldn't bear much of an impact on Grayscale's career. But I believe the answer to this question, which is inherently subjective, can open us up to some new ways of thinking regarding band merchandise and present us with an array of questions to contemplate. As far as the question goes, I believe the devil is in the details, because it's like, what is a brand? That's definitely something that needs to be clearly defined before an accurate response can be given. You got to think about it like this: Nickelodeon is a brand, Supreme is a brand, and Energizer is a brand, but they're all so different in nature. With Grayscale, I and many of their fans would agree that a clothing brand would most likely be what people are referring to when posed with the question, is Grayscale a brand or a band? So what is a clothing brand, right? That's something that also needs to be clearly defined before we proceed. Here's an excerpt from a betterlemonadestand.com, a website that specializes in entrepreneurship and e-commerce. Many clothing brands are built on a strong brand. Beyond the clothes themselves, a strong brand encourages and reinforces your target market to purchase, represent, share, and repurchase your clothing line. So based on that definition, I'd say Grayscale is a music band that can effectively function as a clothing brand. We'll call them a musical brand, which I don't think is an actual term, but it is now. It's pretty incredible that Grayscale could easily just be a clothing brand, which really speaks to how well they're handling their merch. Like, imagine being a band and having merchandise that's so good that it could stand alone as a clothing brand. Not only is their merch pretty much better than every other band right now, the part that really gets me, the kicker, is it's also better than most clothing brands. It really makes me laugh, actually. They're raising the bar so high and exposing lazy, uninspired merchandise as a byproduct of that. They're calling people out without even calling people out. That's how hard their merch speaks for itself. So I just called Grayscale a musical brand, but for the sake of the next idea I want to explore, let's just call them a brand. Okay, so they're a brand, now what? What implication does that have, and is that a good or bad thing? I see a lot of people, and even some smaller bands that are clearly jealous, say things like, do you guys even make music or just put out merch? You guys put out too much merch. Or stop dropping so much merch and make music. When people make the implication that Grayscale is more of a clothing brand than a band and kind of imply it is a bad thing, it honestly really confuses me, because when you boil it down, you're left with this to ponder. Grayscale makes merch and sells it. Other bands make merch and sell it. So why is there more of a to-do about Grayscale's merch? Well, because it's better and presented better, plain and simple. So when I hear things like, you guys put out too much merch, all I can think to myself is, so would you rather them just have the same 8 crappy designs on merch now that were designed by a corporate graphic designer and stay up for months at a time and update it with more crappy designs a couple times a year? Or would you rather them release really great merch every month or so in limited numbers designed by smaller, way cooler graphic designers? The choice is yours. Okay, maybe some of you are thinking, Nate, it's not about the merch per se, it's more so that us as fans just wish that they would drop more music instead of merch. And I totally hear you on that, but your average band on record labels like Fearless, Hopeless, No Sleep, etc. are on a 2-year record cycle. And so far, Grayscale is pretty much dead on that, as Adornment just turned 2 and Nella Vita is coming out relatively soon. So I hear you on that, but the reality is most bands like Grayscale will only put out a full album every 2 years or so. So when Aaron Davis, bassist in local band Save the Sinking Ships, replies to Grayscale on Twitter and says, "Are y'all gonna put out more music or just sell more merch?" It's safe to assume that he's jealous that his band's tiny logo tee doesn't hold a candle to Grayscale's merch. Be happy if someone ever accuses your band of being a brand. That means you're doing merch and music so well that either one could sturdily stand on its own. What can other bands learn from Grayscale? Well, a really easy takeaway from all this is, if you want your band to stand out and shine above others, you have to do everything better and excel in those areas. Merchandise is one of the many components that Grayscale is great at, and I truly believe that most bands would benefit heavily from putting more time and energy into their merch and overall look, which I know is a bit of a controversial statement, but you mates gotta remember, this is just my opinion. Grayscale is the world's first and world's finest musical brand. While Grayscale does have some great merchandise for fans to purchase and sport around, the biggest selling point would have to be their music, which is a really good thing since first and foremost they are a rock and roll band. Musically, they are eons ahead of their peers, lyrically, instrumentally, sonically, you name it. While Grayscale could be classified as many different types of music, they're often referred to as a pop punk band, and there are very few pop punk bands in this day and age that are operating at the caliber Grayscale are. I can't say enough good things about the way they convey feelings and emotion. Pop punk bands are often teaming with uninspired cliche lyrics, but Grayscale's lyrics are the antithesis of this. And I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but when I listen to a lot of pop punk bands, the lyrics kind of make me cringe a little bit, which again doesn't make me enjoy pop punk any less because I enjoy it a lot, but the point is Grayscale's lyrics don't make me cringe. They have much more depth, perspective, and it's evident that time and thought went into constructing what it is they're trying to say. Lyrically, one of my favorite Grayscale tracks is Fever Dream, and I actually didn't even notice the lyrics that much until I looked them up because I like the overall song as a whole so much. Here are a couple lines from it. "I'm ashes, post flame, all the coal that disintegrates, I'll just lie here quietly, sink into the earth's defeat." Lyrics are always up to interpretation, but I take this as, I'm very empty and just want to die here all alone. But most bands in their lane would express that more like, I'm sad, I'm empty, and I just want to die here all alone, leave me alone. Definitely a cut above your average pop punk band. I'm also very fond of the production on their music, as far as Adornment and beyond. Their prior music still had decent production, but Adornment and what's come after has been outstanding. Everything is crystal clear like a Fiji waterfall. Each instrument is able to shine through and be heard without overshadowing another one. Their 2 most recent singles are a brilliant example of this. There's something about their music that's just yearning to be bigger. Almost kind of like Grayscale isn't as big as they should be as a band based on the sound of their music. For instance, on their newest track, In Violet, the hey hey and Disney-esque Lilo and Stitch sounds at the end make it sound like they're the type of band that should have songs in movies like Cheaper by the Dozen and should be selling out entire arenas. They have that early 2000s really big pop punk band energy going for them lately, and I love it. Grayscale is one of the few current bands in pop punk that I feel is actually pushing the genre forward and is willing to experiment a little bit. It feels good and sounds even better. I'm excited to see the strides they make on their upcoming album, Nella Vita. Even their album covers, Adornment and Nella Vita, look a little different than what I'm used to seeing from bands in their genre. They're on to big things and I'm here for the ride. The third and final component that completes the Grayscale trifecta is their brilliant marketing team, which spans far beyond just the members of Grayscale. Credit toward their marketing team, photographers, and creative director is very much due. And when I say marketing, here's the type of stuff I'm talking about. The photos they post, the way they present their merch, their overall aesthetic, stuff like that. So here we go. And I'm only going to touch on the parts that I feel are the most crucial to the success they see in marketing because I feel like this video might be getting kind of long. First of all, Grayscale has consistency in their marketing, which only serves to strengthen their brand. If I had to describe their aesthetic, I'd say it's an edgier, more punk version of what I'd imagine an Urban Outfitters / H&M collaboration to look like. Everything they do has a squeaky clean feel to it, but still maintains that genuine homegrown feel to it, something that a big box retailer could never pull off. They're able to embody somewhat of a commercially appealing look without coming off as empty and soulless. But how? Well, again, it comes back to authenticity. And what I mean by that is the look of their social media profiles, merchandise, album covers, etc. is fairly consistent to how the band members of Grayscale look and dress. It's clean and modern, but somehow still able to keep the punk vibe intact impact as well. Not only is it a nice look that effectively functions as eye candy, but it's true to who they are as people, making the entire band feel so real in what they're doing and aids them in creating something truly genuine and original. I was going to scroll through their Instagram and show you how brilliant and consistent their feed is, but they deleted all but 10 of their posts in promotion of their upcoming album. But even just based on what's left, we can still see consistency to what they're doing. They display their merch in a way that I don't think I've ever seen done before in this world of music. Instead of just going into a dark bedroom and taking a picture of a wrinkly t-shirt covered in cat hair, the Grayscale team chooses to display their merchandise in more of a streetwear-esque fashion, almost in the style of a lookbook. People really underestimate the power of presentation, because every time Grayscale drops merch, I want to buy it. Just because it all looks so clean, high quality, and nice. And in your head, you're subconsciously like, maybe if I buy this, I can be clean and cool too. Their attention to detail is immaculate and simply blows other groups out of the water. They also do a really great job of interacting with each other on social media in a silly, fun, lighthearted way, giving us another little dimension to consume and enjoy. When they were in the process of promoting a music video, they basically did it by fake kicking out drummer Nick Vino and creating a ton of buzz that way. I really appreciate how they just keep it fun on social media and don't feel the need to get all political and serious. If you're currently in a band or want to start a band, start studying Grayscale right now for marketing tips, because they're doing it better than every other band in the scene right now, and as you can see, it's paying dividends. Before we close this out, my mates, I'll quickly give you my thoughts on their two most recent singles, Painkiller Weather and In Violet. So I really enjoy them both quite a bit. Painkiller Weather can be accurately described as sounding the way strawberry lemonade tastes. It perfectly walks the tightrope between being happy and sad, as the lyrics might make you want to cry, while the instrumentals might make you want to go outside and fly a kite with your childhood best friend. If this song is any indication of the direction that Grayscale is headed, then I'm excited. In Violet really blew me away in terms of production. I think this is the cleanest and clearest Grayscale has ever sounded, and I can't wait to hear how this song sits within the album. The transition from pre-chorus to chorus is explosive and will get stuck in your head for days. I'm a really big fan of the hey hey towards the end of the track, and I hope they incorporate some more of that stuff in the album. I don't really even know what to call it exactly, but I just hope to hear more. This song shows progression without straying away too far from Grayscale's identity they've created. I love it. My mates, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an outstanding balance of your day. If anyone from Grayscale is watching, can't wait to hear the new record.